The mysterious discovery of a concentrated chunk of ultra-scarce mineral quartz in the Gale Crater region of Mars by the Curiosity rover in 2016 has finally gotten an explanation from researchers, and we've gotten to know of some really interesting discoveries made about the red planet. Today, we're going to tell you guys all about that. First off, Mars used to have water. The Gale Crater, which is either 3.8 billion years old or older, was selected as Curiosity's landing site because of the high probability that it once had actual water, and the rover discovered proof that confirmed that this crater used to be a lake as recently as 1 billion years ago. That sounds like a really long time for us, but in terms of geographical changes, it's not a lot. In July 2015, Curiosity drilled into a rock at the Buckskin target place in Gale Crater, which led to rock powder as a byproduct. A crew of planetary scientists from NASA's Johnson Space Center, Rice University, and CalTech are of the opinion that the concentrated chunk of Tridymite was thrown into the Gale Crater by a volcano when it was still filled with water. This could have been as long as 1 billion years ago. This new possibility suggests the red planet has a more complicated and interesting volcanic history than we used to think. Now, just how is Tridymite formed? Tridymite, which is rarely ever found on Earth, is a sort of quartz, a type of silica, which is created when low pressures and extreme temperatures happen together. And just how Tridymite was discovered in an old lake bed is a question that has plagued researchers for years. Finding Tridymite in a mudstone in Gale Crater is one of the most shocking things to happen to the Curiosity rover in its decade of exploring Mars, is what Rice University professor and team member Kristen Seebach had to say about the whole thing. Tridymite is usually associated with quartz-forming, explosive, evolved volcanic systems on Earth, but we found it in the bottom of an ancient lake on Mars, where most of the volcanoes are very primitive. To solve this daunting mystery, Seebach and her colleagues examined data surrounding the Tridymite formation on Earth. They also looked at its volcanic materials, different models of volcanism on the red planet, as well as sedimentary evidence collected from the Gale Crater, where the Curiosity rover touched down in August 2012. Next up, Mars geographical history. They came up with a new scenario that suggests that Martian magma had been sitting for longer than initially thought in a chamber under a volcano. This would let it cool, at least partially. A process called fractional crystallization would take place, and this would bolster the magma's silicon concentration. A big eruption then scattered the ash that contained this extra silicon in the form of Tridymite to the lake that would gradually form the Gale Crater, as well as the rivers surrounding it. This volcanic ash was then broken down by the water in the lake, which also helped in sorting the minerals trapped within the ash. This is how the Tridymite was concentrated. The hypothesis put forward by the researchers would also help explain other parts of the sample, such as its smaller portions of aluminum oxide and opaline silicates. Seebach revealed that it was a pretty direct evolution of other volcanic rocks they discovered. The team had only seen this particular mineral once before, and it was really concentrated in one layer. They also concluded that the volcano must have erupted at the same time the lake was present, and even though the particular sample they examined wasn't entirely volcanic ash, it was ash that had been weathered and influenced by water. These findings also have more far-reaching implications for the geological history of Mars. They tell us that the red planet must have gone through intense and explosive volcanism more than 3 billion years ago. This would have been at an era when Mars was transitioning from a wet and warm environment to the dry and barren planet we are familiar with in 2022. There are plenty of basaltic volcanic eruptions, and these are a lot like that, but they're more evolved. The team published these discoveries in the journal Earth and Planetary Science Letters. Finally, the Mars rover Perseverance found another thing too. On June 13, 2022, NASA's Perseverance rover caught a photo of a shiny silver object stuck between two rocks on the floor of Mars' Gale Crater, which the robot has been exploring since it touched down in February 2021. This space trash actually hasn't originated from Mars. Perseverance brought it from Earth. The rover's handler said that this silver scrap was actually a broken-off piece of a thermal blanket that came from their descent stage. One of their team members used a rocket-powered jetpack that set him down. Well, that's a bummer. We were hoping it was a surefire sign of alien life. Perhaps aliens also litter. But what exactly is a thermal blanket? It's a material used to keep temperatures under check, and the team was definitely surprised to find it there, 1.2 miles away from where the descent stage crashed. On the bright side, this aerial imagery is being used by engineers to help them assess the condition and functioning of the back shell and chute, which could greatly help evolve the design of future Mars missions, NASA officials have stated. In other related news, why did the Mars sample return mission leave behind Fetch rover? The campaign to bring sterile Martian samples to Earth is now also going to feature 2 mini helicopters. NASA officials participating in the Mars sample return effort announced on July 27, 2022 that they plan to restructure the whole mission and forget an old concept that called for a European Space Agency Fetch rover that would have its own lander to touch down. NASA's Perseverance rover, predicted to still be active when a NASA MSR lander touches down in 2031, will now be given the responsibility of returning with the samples it has collecting and caching to a Mars ascent vehicle. If it fails, 2 helicopters similar to Ingenuity, which landed with Perseverance last year, will be backup options to get the caches by themselves. Next up, why these helicopters are a better idea. The helicopters will be much like Ingenuity when it comes to their mass and size, but there's going to be 2 big differences, NASA MSR program manager Richard Cook revealed to reporters during a briefing. The helicopters are going to have landing legs that include mobility wheels at the bottom too. He explained that this new feature will let the helicopters traverse across the planet's surface. There's also going to be a small robotic arm on each of the crafts that will let the drones pick up the sample tubes left behind by Perseverance if they're needed. If the helicopters are required for this sort of work, they are going to land close to a sample tube and roll towards it to pick it up, then fly to a spot near the Mars ascent vehicle. After touchdown, the helicopters are going to roll closer to the vehicle and drop the sample somewhere it can be reached by the recently announced ESA-built transfer arm. The redesigned choice also means that no rover is to touch down on Mars in the near future, but the new concept also may allow NASA to finally achieve the ambitious sample return effort with fewer complications and financial setbacks, according to the coalition. David Parker, head of ESA's Human and Robotic Exploration, told reporters that he was really fascinated by the sample rover because its design guarantees a whole lot more speed than the old Mars rovers. It's going to take 4 to 5 times less time than it would have with any other rover. However, that's not all. In addition, the rovers, however, would have also entailed another launch, lander, and all the rest, which meant that taking out the hardware from the manifest was indeed a sensible move. Now, who is Rosalind Franklin? ESA is still working on building a rover which is going to be given the job of landing on Mars. This rover is a life-hunting robot with the name Rosalind Franklin. That rover was actually meant to launch in 2022 on a Russian rocket, but that plan couldn't happen after Russians invaded Ukraine. The robot is now scheduled to lift off in 2028 and no earlier than that. The engineering team has been working really fast to discover another approach for getting the Rosalind Franklin rover to Mars, is what Parker said about the situation, saying different options are currently being discussed. He also mentioned that a special European Council meeting in Paris will take place in November 2022 that'll let member states choose what the best way to proceed from here is. Some aspects of the revised MSR plan are still being figured out. Officials have no estimate yet on the budget they'll be needing for this, but advise only having 1 lander go to Mars, considering how much cheaper it'll be than sending 2. The helicopters for now have no solid primary mission, but they'll probably be given the job of analyzing and observing the area around the Martian ascent vehicle or watching over the rocket when it takes off from the red planet. That's a wrap for this video. Are you excited to see what the rovers on Mars discover next? Do you think there's alien life on the red planet? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.